Folks, let's talk about leadership, an exciting and endlessly fascinating subject. There are people, there are researchers who've devoted their entire lifetime studying it, and yet no one has ever cracked it completely. Perhaps it's not meant to be cracked. Billions of dollars are poured every single year into leadership development in the corporate world and nonprofits and other places. New models come up all the time. New books hit the shelves all the time. Conferences are packed with panels on the future of leadership. Yours sincerely has been a part of many of these panels. And yet, this field keeps evolving. And that's because leadership isn't a formula to be cracked. It's a living, breathing, evolving practice. I'd also like to say up front, as we dive into this video, that what I'm about to share is not the final word on leadership by any means. This is not an exhaustive list. It's just my top 5 plus one bonus. I'm throwing in an extra bonus for folks who watch all the way towards the end. And it's distilled from 2 decades of working with leaders across industries, across continents. These are tips that I believe are most relevant in the world we're living in right now. These times of AI and automation and restructuring and uncertainty and disruption, I'm sure all of these 5 tips, if followed in the spirit that I'm sharing them with you, will lead to immense benefit. And that's what excites me the most about creating content like this, because leaders are powerful people. When you change, it has a ripple effect everywhere across the organization. Your decisions, your words, even your moods have ripple effects across entire organizations. When you bring clarity and energy and optimism, your teams light up. And when you're negative or pessimistic or unclear and uncertain, that spreads too. And that's the beauty and the burden of leadership, my friends, that you and your moods and your visions and your temperament and what you're trying to achieve, your energy, all of these things are contagious. It's also important to set the context regarding the distinction between management and leadership here as we begin. They are not the same thing. Management, my friends, is about efficiency. It's about preserving the status quo. It's about climbing the ladder of success as fast as you can. Leadership, on the other side, is about asking, are we even climbing the right ladder? Is the ladder leaning against the right wall or not? Leadership is about shaking things up. It's about questioning and redefining and reshaping the culture. So I invite you to stay with me all the way through till this entire video. Watch all the way to the end and tell me which one of the 5 tips resonated the most with you. And there's also a little warning, a little friendly warning for everyone. These tips might not yield the best results in the short term, right? If you're looking for some short-term fixes, this video is probably not for you. It's for those folks who want to build something that will endure, something that will outlast you. Let's dive in. All right, my friends, let's dive straight into tip number 1 for becoming a better leader in a changing world, and it's patience. I know most of us hate that word. We live in a world of tight deadlines and delivery pressure and quarterly results. Patience feels like a luxury, something that's outlandish and theoretical. But here's the truth. If you don't cultivate patience, especially in these changing times, you'll burn out as a leader. Your team will burn out and the culture will turn toxic and short-term. You need patience, my friends, to deal with chaos. We need patience to create a great video like this. We need patience to implement new initiatives. We need patience for people to adapt to change and learn new skills and adapt to the new culture that you might be trying to bring. You need patience for conflict resolution, and conflict happens all the time. And I believe one of the number 1 qualities of a good leader is to be a good problem solver. You will need patience for that too. And you will also need patience for your long-term visions to finally come into shape, to bear fruit. That takes time. Here's a simple metaphor to look at it, an interesting metaphor. 9 women working together cannot have a baby in 1 month. It's a biological process that will take 9 months. Having a baby takes 9 months. No matter how much 9 women collaborate together, you cannot have a human baby in 1 month. Some things take their time. Culture takes time. Trust takes time. Transformation, true cultural transformation takes time. And remember, as a leader, you're not just distributing tasks. you're also distributing relational energy. Harvard Business Review had a whole article on this. Relational energy. The kind of energy that lights people up when you look them in the eye or shake their hand. Now, if your tank is empty, if your patience is missing, people feel it instantly, and you're not able to distribute the sort of relational energy that motivates and inspires teams to do the sort of work that needs to be done during transformations. Now, don't get me wrong. Too much of patience can turn into weakness, can be interpreted as a sign of weakness. There are moments when you'll need to be impatient, to move fast and break things, as they say in Facebook at Meta, and to disrupt. And great leaders, I know, have the discernment to know the difference, when to push and when to pause. So the question is, how do you build this patience that I'm talking about? Number one, and this is something that works for me, mindfulness breaks. Just take a few minutes of conscious breathing and it'll reset your entire internal clock. Your internal chaos will calm down a little bit. I've spoken about it in detail in our video on developing emotional intelligence. I strongly suggest you go watch that. Number two, learning from nature. I admire farmers, and they are my greatest teachers in cultivating patience. You cannot yell at crops to make them grow faster. You can plant the seed, you water, you wait. Seasons do their work. Time is magical. That's what catalyzes this process. And the same is true for leadership. Number three, meditation. Take daily meditation breaks. My meditation process slows me down from the inside out. Not necessarily slows me down, but makes me more mindful of whatever pace that I'm going at. If I'm going too fast, my meditation tells me, my mindfulness practices tell me this is too fast and, it's reckless and something not good is going to emerge from it. So it's like, reminding yourself that you have to tune your inner instrument, that if you rush, you ruin the melody. So understand that this mindfulness about patience is going to be critical because so many things that you will undertake are going to take time. You cannot just place an order off Amazon or somewhere else and it'll be delivered to you same day or next day delivery. No, great projects will take time to be delivered and you will need patience. And I know patience isn't sexy, isn't trending. You will even feel like you're going against the conventional wisdom, that everybody else is winning the race while you're practicing patience. But this is what separates long-term thinkers and short-term thinkers. This is what separates managers from leaders and sprinters from marathoners. And with a lot of patience, I'm now moving on to tip number two, which is getting better at mentoring. Mentoring, not micromanaging, not monitoring. Mentoring your teams is a secret to being a great leader in these changing times, because these are the times filled with great upheavals and disruptions. People are scared. They're scared about layoffs. They're scared about AI taking over their jobs, scared about whether the organization will stand by them tomorrow or not, whether you will stand by them tomorrow or not. And in moments like these, they're not just looking for paychecks. Of course, paycheck is the most important thing, of course, but they're also looking for a real human being at work who says, I've got your back. You can count on me. I'll help you grow. I'll walk this path with you. They don't need another training video. They need a real human being who says, we can do this together. I'm here to help you. And research backs us up, my friends. A Gartner survey revealed that 82% of employees believe mentoring is critical to career development, yet less than half feel that they are actually receiving it. So there's a huge gap between what employees are expecting and what they are getting as far as on-the-job development and guidance and mentoring is concerned. And that gap is yours to fill in. It's for you to step forward. It's your opportunity to serve, to not only build skills for the team, but also build trust. And if you leave this just to HR alone, it will never get done. Upskilling right now is one of the top 3 global priorities for people leaders across the world. And HR alone cannot do it. Or a single training program, or if you're waiting for the offsite to fix that skill gap, you'll be waiting forever, because real mentoring happens on the job, in the moment, in the middle of action. And that's why you are the most important part of this entire equation. And I understand it probably won't get you extra money. It probably was not written in your job description. It probably won't show up in your appraisal. You might not even win a trophy at the annual offsite retreat for mentoring others, but you will also not qualify to be called what I believe is a real leader, the one who rises above applause and appreciation and approval and paychecks and does what needs to be done in order to be called a real leader. I'd like to share a personal experience here from my own careers. One of the most beautiful phases of my careers, of my hospitality careers, was the 3.5 years I spent at the gorgeous White Horse Hotel in this quiet English town called Dorking in the United Kingdom. Why was this the most memorable time? Because of my boss, Mr. Thomas Fullard. You see, Thomas wasn't just a great journal manager, which he obviously was. He was also like a mentor and a guide and a friend to me, almost like an elder brother. He knew when to challenge me, when to guide me, when to laugh with me, when to sit down and have a serious conversation. And that entire experience shaped my personality, my work ethic more than any training program could ever do. It showed me that mentoring is not rocket science or some theoretical exercise. It is intention, it is presence and care. As Dr. John C. Maxwell said, leaders become great not because of their power, but because of their ability to empower others. Couldn't have said it better. Here are some simple, practical methods of mentoring others at your workplace. If you're a leader, number one is ongoing conversations. Not once a quarter, not an annual review, small, regular check-ins. Ask folks, what's on your mind? How can I help? How can I make your job easier for you? Modeling vulnerability is the second way you can encourage more conversations around mentoring. If you model vulnerability, if you share your own mistakes, your own lessons learned, your own growth journeys, people will love and appreciate it far more than a perfect PowerPoint presentation. Daily huddles, 10 minutes, 5 minutes with your team to share the priorities, build clarity, wins and failures and struggles. Short but powerful, they build connect, and they also serve the purpose of mentoring others on an ongoing basis on the job. Organizing TEDx-style sessions inside your team is another one of my suggestions. Let people talk about their biggest victories, their lessons, their ambitions, things they've learned, and so that really helps. Learning circles is another one of my suggestions. Maybe take this video, for example, or take a book, for example. Read a chapter a week and then discuss it over the coffee break at work. And the magic will not just be in the book or the video, it's in the conversation that follows at the workplace. And finally, I'd also like to suggest reverse mentoring. Yes, you heard that right. Reverse mentoring, getting the youngest members, the newest members of your team who probably know more about AI and generative AI and social media or digital marketing, and getting them to teach you, right? Invite them to run something for you, maybe a little presentation, a hands-on workshop. That sort of humility will build trust like nothing else does. And remember, it doesn't have to be formal. Mentoring doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't require a stage or a training module. It requires intention and your presence and your care. As Simon Sinek said, leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. Okay, tip number 3 in learning the leadership skills of the future, being a meaning maker. We've all heard the leaders as kingmakers, leaders as rainmakers and deal makers, but here's one that rarely gets talked about, and in my opinion, it matters the most. Leaders as meaning makers. What does that mean? Simple. It means your job is to help people make sense of the chaos, to connect the dots, to remind them why we're doing what we're doing, especially when everything around feels confusing, overwhelming, or at times even unfair. You step into that picture and help them process it, help them make sense of it, right? You know what? Every single one of us has moments where we ask ourselves, why am I even doing this? Well, I go through moments like that when I'm going to some far-flung place and I've been traveling from one city to another to deliver my keynotes, and I'm on this early morning flight or late night flight and I've been away from home for 20 days as a stretch. I'm probably sitting in a flight somewhere asking, why am I even doing what I'm doing? And I need to remind myself, I have that mechanism. I'm sure you've also found your own ways to wrestle with that sort of question, maybe through journaling, meditation, prayer. I use these who are you cards. I've spoken about it in other videos. Or even maybe you have a coach or somebody else to talk to get back to normal, to get back into doing what you're supposed to do. And here's the thing, your people are struggling with that same question probably very frequently, probably every single day. Why am I in this job? Why am I following this leader? Why am I giving this energy to this corporation? And if nobody steps in to answer that why with clarity and conviction, with passion, guess who will? The competitors will. Or maybe you'll have burnout and disengagement or quiet resignation or whatever you like to call it. Somebody needs to step in and answer that question. Why are we doing what we're doing? To connect their daily work with a bigger, larger purpose. This is where you come in as the meaning maker. Simon Sinek went viral, into a global authority into over why. Start with why. His famous TED talk with the flip chart and a marker, if you remember that one. But here's the truth: this isn't a new idea. Every effective leader throughout history, all the way from Nelson Mandela to Mahatma Gandhi to Steve Jobs, they understood the same thing. If people don't know why they're rowing, they'll drop the oar. If people don't know why they're fighting, they will not fight for you, for your purpose, for your cause, because it's your cause, not theirs. Somehow somebody has to come in to make that connection, right? And one of the ways you can do it is by what astronauts call the overview effect. When they go into space, they experience something called the overview effect. Because they're looking at Earth from space, they see no borders, no wars, no politics, just one fragile blue dot floating in the darkness. They come back spiritual and they change a lot, and this perspective shifts how they look at life, and they fall in love with humanity again. Perhaps your role as a leader is also to give the people in your company the same perspective shift inside the organization. Show them the bigger picture. Help them rise above their day-to-day battles or their day-to-day grind and see the larger purpose their work is serving. Connect their daily grind with something grand. And according to McKinsey and so many other reports, employees who find meaning in their work are 3 times more likely to stay with their organization. Harvard Business Review called meaning the new money in one of their articles. Meaning is the new money. That's how that article went. And what it means is when people feel that their work matters, they'll bring in energy, creativity, and loyalty, which you cannot buy with money alone, which a paycheck cannot, meaning can. So how do you actually do this as a leader? Number 1, share with them the story behind the strategy. Don't just announce strategies, also tell them the story behind it, how it will make a difference, why they matter, how they are connected, how they will help this strategy move forward, how the stakeholders will gain, how the society will gain. Connect personal goals to organizational goals. Help your team see how their project contributes to something larger than just more numbers. Use metaphors and visuals. A ship and its crew, a garden and its gardeners, marathon team. This sort of language, it sticks in people's minds far more than any PowerPoint slide could ever. So, quick disclaimer before I wrap this tip up. You don't need to explain or over-explain every single decision as a leader. That way you'll just exhaust yourself. And leadership is not a popularity campaign. It's not a popularity competition. It's not a 24/7 PR campaign. But when the stakes are high, and when your people are restless, when change is unsettling them, you need to step up and say, hey, this is why we're doing this. This is how it connects with the bigger picture. And this is the direction our ship is rowing into. And this is how you are contributing. And thank you so much for that contribution. If you are able to say that, if you're able to do this role well, you would have actively satisfied your role as a meaning maker. All right, tip number 4, sending your people on a quest. I don't have a perfect corporate term for it, and you could call it empowerment or ownership or delegation, but I like the word quest because a quest isn't just a task, it's an adventure. It comes with risks, unknowns, challenges, chances of failure, and magnificent victories. And when you send someone on a quest, you're telling them, look, I trust you. I believe you can handle this. It might not work out, but I want you to find out. And that's sending people on a quest. Great leaders every once in a while ask their teams, what do you think about this? What do you think we should do about this? And then they take a step back and they give them space and their tools and the time necessary to go on their quest and discover something new. I'll tell you a personal story. I mentioned my old boss, Mr. Thomas Fullard, earlier, and let's come back to him again. He had this beautiful way of challenging me. Whenever I came to him with a problem or a hurdle, he'd smile and ask, "So, Simerjeet, what are you going to do about this?" He used to call me Sam. "Sam, what are you going to do about this?" And that one question would change the equation. It would force me to stop waiting for instructions and start taking initiative. And when he would greenlight my ideas, suddenly they weren't just tasks anymore. They were now my projects. That ownership made me show up differently, right? And history is full of leaders, my friends, who sent their people on quests. Mr. Xerxes Desai, I love how he moved the entire Titan Watches team into launching the slimmest waterproof watch in the world. There's a wonderful case study. You can read about it in Porus Munshi's book. That's about Titan watches, how Titan created world's slimmest waterproof watch called the Titan Edge. The Swiss and Japanese watchmakers said it cannot be done, and they were the world leaders at the time. They had declared it impossible. But every time Mr. Desai's team would come back dejected saying, we can't do anything about it, or here's this hurdle, he'd challenge his team and say, what are you going to do about it? Right? That question is so powerful. I want you to type it in the comments. What are you going to do about it? As a reminder to use this question more frequently. That relentless push kept sending his people back on the quest until they would overcome the hurdle and the next hurdle. And finally, the result was, it was India, not Switzerland, not Japan, which gave the world its slimmest waterproof watch, the Titan Edge, which was the outcome of this mindset. What are you going to do about it? The same principle that led to big discoveries. Listen, if Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand hadn't sent Christopher Columbus on a quest, he wouldn't have stumbled onto the new world. If Google hadn't given their employees the famous 20% time to chase passion projects, we might never had Gmail or Google Maps. When you allow people room to experiment, room to make mistakes, room to pursue something they're passionate about, they often surprise you. Sending people on a quest also means that you're giving them permission to fail. And do you know how empowering that is? That is more empowering than any trust fall or any team building exercise could ever accomplish. That's the sort of trust it builds. And that is very hard for leaders to do at the workplace, giving people room to fail. But here's the paradox. People who are trusted enough to fail usually end up succeeding beyond your expectations, because the ownership you give them, or the ownership this equation creates, makes them dig deeper. Responsibility sharpens their creativity. It's no longer your project they're working on, it becomes their baby, and people fight harder for their own babies. So, how do you do this practically? How do you send people on quests? A few simple ways. Number one, flip the script. Next time someone brings you a problem, don't rush into giving them a solution. Ask, what do you think we should do here? Have them activate their problem-solving mindset also. Give quests, not chores. Frame projects as challenges and adventures to go on, not just boxes to tick. Create safe spaces for mistakes. Tell your team up front, I'd rather see you take a shot and stumble and fail rather than play safe and stagnate and do nothing about it. That can be super empowering. And celebrate ownership. When someone takes an initiative, spotlight them. Make them the hero of their quest. And I am not saying that you abdicate your role as a leader. There are moments when precision, direction, and control, even micromanagement, would be necessary. But if that's all you ever do, you'll choke innovation, you'll choke new ideas. Great leaders are like great coaches. They know when to call the play and when to throw the ball to their team and say, your move. So my friends, as we close this one, here's a little challenge. This week, send one person on a quest. Let them own the outcome. Let them build something. Let them wrestle with the hurdles. Let them come back with their version of the solution. And while you keep them pushing out back into the field again with the same question, what are you going to do about it? Tip number 5, my friends, building the right organizational culture. And you probably heard it before. It probably sounds like a cliche by now. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. I think that's attributed to Peter F. Drucker. But the thing is, culture is the invisible operating system that runs your organization every single day and is one of the most overlooked leadership competencies is culture building. And here's the truth. As a leader, whether you're realizing it or not, you're writing the code of that culture that everybody else is downloading. Your people are watching you constantly. They're not just listening to your speeches in town halls or reading your emails or reading the mission statements on the wall. They're observing you. They're scanning your actions, your tone of voice, how you treat the receptionist or the security guard, how do you handle stress, whether you cut corners, whether you show up on time or not. And all of this, they begin to replicate it. They begin to copy you. Is through something neuroscientists call mirror neurons. Especially if they admire you, especially if they look up to you, they will copy what you do, not what you say. So you are the culture. And culture is not built in posters or fancy values written in the annual report or during HR orientation programs. Culture is built in daily actions and tiny choices that you and others in influential positions in your organization make. Those choices are copied by others. It's built by what you tolerate and what you don't tolerate. Listen, my friends, there is an inherent mismatch in many organizations between what leaders preach and what they actually reward, and that leads to this clash. If you preach collaboration but reward individual performance at the annual R&R, you're building a culture of competition, not cooperation. If you talk about integrity but look the other way when somebody cuts ethical corners, you're building a culture of shortcuts. No matter how many passionate speeches you give about ethics, but if you look the other way at that point of time, you're saying to everyone, it's okay. So how do you build a culture worth belonging to? Few simple tips. Live the values. Lead by example, right? Don't just announce your values, demonstrate them. Show people what ownership looks like. Call out behavior that is not in sync with your culture. Call it out. Don't ignore that behavior that goes against the culture. Your silence will be complicity here. When you address it, you're telling everybody else on the team, this matters. And talk about your culture at every available opportunity. Through your conversations, through your celebrations. Remind people culture is not just an HR exercise, it's the air we all breathe. And celebrate culture keepers. I think Ritz-Carlton has this daily storytelling exercise where their credo of ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen, for any employee that goes out of the way to serve someone, to make somebody's experience memorable, that story is shared in the daily employee huddles for Ritz-Carlton properties across the world. That's how they celebrate culture keepers. You've got to spotlight people, those who embody your values, not just the ones who deliver the numbers, okay? And here's something interesting from research. According to Deloitte's Global Human Capital Trends report, 82% of executives believe culture is a competitive advantage. They all agree with this, but only 19% believe that they have the right culture. So there's a huge gap because many leaders believe culture is somebody else's job. It's the HR's job, learning and development's job, etc. It isn't. It's yours. If you're the leader, building the right culture is your job. So here's a bonus tip for everybody who's still sticking around. Bonus tip is be the disruptor in chief of your organization, all right? Not just the protector in chief of your company's values, vision, and ethos, which you must be. You must also step up as the disruptor in chief. What that means? It means you're the one challenging the status quo. You're the one asking the tough questions about why we are doing what we do. You're the one looking at outdated processes and SOPs and bloated structures and useless forms and saying, why are we still doing this? Because here's the truth, my friends. If you don't disrupt yourself, someone else will, or you will risk getting outdated and slow. Sure, some things are timeless and must be protected. Your core values, your organizational soul, the non-negotiables that define who you are and what your organization is, they must be safeguarded like crown jewels. But everything else, technology, organizational structures, internal processes, customer expectations, products, even geographies that you work in. These are all fair game for disruption. Disruption, my friends, is not a one-off event. It's a habit, it's a mindset, it's a way of looking at things, not disrupting for the sake of disrupting, but continuously asking, what can we reinvent? What can be leaner, sharper, trimmer? What needs to evolve? What must we let go of? What should we start? And what should we continue? And what should we stop? Remember, Netflix disrupted Blockbuster, Uber disrupted taxis, Apple disrupted music, and much more. They disrupted phones and even cameras. And you need to disrupt your little corner of the world before somebody else does it for you. So yes, by all means, please be the guardian of your organizational values, the organizational soul, but also be the disruptor in chief of everything that needs to change. Because the organizations that thrive tomorrow are the ones who will dare to disrupt today. So thank you so much for staying with me all the way till the end. I deeply appreciate your time, your curiosity, and your willingness to grow as leaders in this unpredictable times. We've walked through patience, mentoring, making meaning, sending people on quests, building culture, and embracing your role as the disruptor in chief. These, I believe, are the building blocks of leadership in a world that refuses to stand still. And as we close, I must once again point out that for too long we have confused the role of a manager with that of a leader. By all means, I have immense respect for managers and what they do, and the order, the consistency, the uniformity that they bring in any organization. There's nothing against managers that I hold personally. And to be fair, a lot of these management practices, they did their job in the industrial era. SOPs, tight controls, rigid hierarchies, they brought order and efficiency at scale. They were the need of the time, but now times have changed, okay? This is no longer the industrial age. This is the age of AI, of automation, disruption, and layoffs, and so much changing at lightning speed. And we are still clinging mindlessly to industrial era practices. It's like trying to win Formula One with a horse cart. You won't win the race and the horse will be embarrassed, right? So we need more leaders. We've got plenty of managers. We're very good at managing. We need more people who can do the job of real leaders, creating more leaders, execution, envisioning. Like, look at Amazon, one of the largest companies in the world, and yet they insist on running it like the world's largest startup. Why? Because they know that agility beats rigidity, that questioning beats conforming, that reinvention beats repetition. So, my friends, while machines get better at what they do, and they will continue to get better at what they do best, which is efficiency, speed, calculation, automation, it's time we rediscover and double down on what we do best, what machines cannot do for us. Strategy, vision, inspiration, mentoring, meaning making, culture building, creativity, ingenuity, relational energy, optimism, patience, all of these are deeply human aspects of what we call leadership that were neglected in the industrial age under the shiny banner of efficiency, scale, and speed. But these qualities, these invisible forces, are the soul and the heart of leadership. They are what light people up, they keep organizations alive, they build trust when everything else around is shaking. These are the qualities that build trust. So as we close, let me leave you with this. Let machines master efficiency and let you and I master humanity. Because when leaders bring patience and clarity and optimism and meaning into the room, they remind people that work is not just about tasks or targets or transactions or things to achieve or competitors to defeat. It's about people and purpose and building something that serves all the stakeholders, building something larger than ourselves, and building something that will outlast us. And that's leadership in this era. So I hope this video was useful. Tell me in the comments which one of these points resonated with you the most. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you once again for staying all the way with me in this video. And please don't forget to share this video with other leaders that you know, because leaders, through their choices, through their vision, through their moods, and through their values, we create ripple effects in organization. Thank you.